Thanks so much for tuning in to The Other Side. And this segment is called The Other Side. It's the DNA for our entire program and our entire channel. And we bring together a Mexican-American conservative to talk about important issues to Latinos with a Mexican-American progressive. And I'm joined with my partner in crime and law, Jacob Monti Esquire. ¿Cómo estás?
Great to see you, Tony.
And of course, I'm Tony Diaz, el Libre Traficante, as far left as you can get on this continent. But we're here in Houston, Texas, home of the world champion Houston Astros. So we're going to be talking about immigration as translated through baseball, especially since we're in this weird moment where Latinos are talked about. We could argue about certain dog whistles that talk badly about our culture. But also, we're celebrating because Jose Altuve, a Venezolano, was named Most Valuable Player of the American League. You can't get more American than that. So in this weird times, we're trying to bring all the pieces together and figure out exactly what's going on. And my argument is to play baseball, you got to get over the wall. So if you want to play ball, you got to get over the wall. So Jacob, a lot of folks talk about these baseball players, and I point out that, hey man, they're all from other countries, and folks say, yeah, but they immigrated the right way. You know, you as a leading lawyer in the country, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly, and we've done a lot of work for professional baseball players, a lot of work for the Yankees. But there's a special visa category, but it's limited. If you're a professional baseball player, there's visa available. But if you're a fashion model, there's visas available.
So if you're ugly or can hit a fastball, or can't hit a fastball, so if you're ugly or can't hit a fastball, you're out of luck for these visas.
Absolutely. So yes, they came in legally, but most immigrants don't have the opportunity for these types of visas.
But so, I mean, I guess at the immigration offices, they can have like a pitcher throw a ball at the kid and see if they can hit it. If they can hit it, maybe they can stay. But these are very limited. Let's get that clear. So
absolutely.
Very small percentage.
Yes, they come over with visas, but it's a very limited visa category. And you only get that visa if you have an offer from a professional baseball team.
So there's no way to really get around that.
No.
It's got to be very clear, which is crazy. Now, on top of it too, I imagine that a lot of these baseball players, you got them come from Mexico, Venezuela,
Dominican Republic.
Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and also Cuba. So let's talk about Cuba because, of course, Cubanos have benefited from a law that was specific just to them that I think touched on this as well.
Absolutely.
Tell folks about that.
During the Cold War era, they got the Cuban Adjustment Act. It basically gave Cubans automatic permanent residency if they got to the U.S. And a lot of them came from Mexico, and then they would apply for asylum here and automatically get their permanent residency.
Well, that's why they call that the dry foot rule, right?
Well, yes. In the Clinton era, he actually came up with a rule that said if Cubans made it to the soil of the U.S., they would not be returned. But if they were intercepted at sea before they made it to the shore, then they would be sent back to Cuba.
Intercepted at sea. That's got to be a whole other segment. So folks got to dodge the Coast Guard, I suppose, to get through. And even on the beach, I guess.
If you made it to the beach, you were fine.
God.
But Mexicans didn't have that opportunity. I mean, the Mexicans that are here without status, they made it to the shore. If Mexicans had a dry foot policy, we wouldn't have millions of undocumented Mexicans.
So let's get that clear. That rule was only for
Cubans.
Cubanos.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And that's what's unfair about the foes of immigrants is that they point out that they want to do it the legal way, but the legal way is available to Cubans, professional baseball players, and fashion models. It's a very limited category.
Now, I know this all sounds complicated, so I'm going to make it easy for you. In history, it's better to have been a dry foot than a wet back. And I can say that because I'm Chicano and I'm Raza, so only I can say that. If you're watching this and you're not Raza, be careful how you use that term, okay?
Well, look, I agree with you that wetback is an offensive term. To me, it's fighting words. But, Tony, it's actually less offensive than a term that we see on Fox News, on Drudge Report. These are media sources that I consult regularly in case you didn't know what they were. But what we hear is illegal. The illegals want this. illegals.
Well, I heard that at a donut shop too. I mean, people are using that word because they hear
And
it.
number one, it's bad English, but number two,
Because we talk a lot about grammar on this show. Okay.
it's certainly bad English, but I actually prefer illegal alien, undocumented worker. But when you say illegal, it's a lifetime sentence. I actually think wetback's a better word. It describes what they did. They crossed the border to work. And it also describes what they're doing today. They're doing hard jobs that U.S. workers aren't doing.
And it's just as insulting. So you're saying people should keep in mind that the word illegals is just as insulting as the word wetbacks, but you're saying even less precise.
I think it's less offensive. Wetback is less offensive, and yet we hear people on mainstream media use the term illegal, and I think it's very offensive. It's a lifetime sentence for something they did to support their family, to make this country better. Because let's be honest, they're working. They're working in meat processing plants, on farms. They're not here on vacation. They're making our lives better.
No, even to go back to the baseball metaphor or analogy that we're talking about, you talk about all these baseball players from the Dominican Republic. If you go to Dominican Republic, there's baseball camps everywhere. So it's also not like these kids came and tried to hit a fastball and then like they can or can't. They've been cultivated and groomed for these small amounts of special visas. So it's not a mistake that's happening.
No. And Americans love baseball.
We love it.
Why can't we get Americans to love immigrants?
It's like, you're at a baseball game, it's common ground, you don't get asked for your papers, you better have a job to pay for the hot dogs and the adult beverages because it's expensive. But there's a perfect metaphor. So stealing is bad, except in baseball. When you steal second base, that's good. If you do it really good, we want you to steal some more, especially for our team. Let's all get on the same team. I think the other part, too, is that the other metaphor is that if you want to be good at baseball, you got to hit the ball over the wall. So I think if you want to play ball, you got to get over the wall. So let's talk about the wall. First of all, I'm against it because we haven't thought through it. Plus, it's kind of useless. So I'm going to try and look at the other side and get over just an emotional response to the wall. Now recently, you had a deal for DACA that evidently could have included, I guess, 1-point-something million dreamers.
1.8 million dreamers.
That could have then gotten legal status. And
even citizenship is what the president said.
That's what they were talking about, right? And then also perhaps there was some funding for the wall that will go with it. I think it was a certain amount. But here's my issue. That's not the equivalent of full wall funding, because that to me sounds like 10% of the undocumented community. And part of me too says, okay, I'm going to get over the wall emotionally and say, okay, if you want the full funding, document all the undocumented. So you get 100% of the wall funding only if you fund, or if there's a path for citizenship for 100% of the undocumented, just like Reagan did. So Reagan had done it. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, can we agree that if you're really a bad hombre, if you're a wanted criminal who's killed somebody or raped somebody, that you don't have a right to stay here?
Is there any confusion? So maybe this is eye-opening. Because, if you're beating up people, hurting people, killing people, get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Like, that's common ground right there. So.
No, and I knew what the answer was, but the media tries to portray anyone who's in favor of immigration reform as being in favor of open borders, and you're not in favor of open borders. I'm not in favor of open borders. We're talking about people that
because there's got to be some rules in baseball.
Absolutely.
What's foul? What's fair? What's a home run? What's a strikeout?
I agree with your proposition. If you're not a criminal, you should be able to stay. And if he comes up, I say if the president and the Congress come up with a plan that legalizes or gives status to most of the undocumented here that aren't criminals, then he should get the wall. Tony, I've never had a problem with a wall because who's going to build it? Our folks are going to build it, right?
Right. And actually, the problem I've had with the wall is the stereotypes around it, and really that it seems ineffective. At the end of the day, it's like, well, if you're really dead set on it, fix this just like Reagan did. And that's the other part that blows my mind. It was a Republican who actually had real immigration reform way back when, and now the Republicans aren't thinking deeply about it. I guess they got to come to the other side to really think deep about it. Okay, I got a list of beefs I'll pick up with you later, because I don't want that word illegal alien anywhere. But evidently there's room for it in the immigration laws, but we'll get to it. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, you have crossed over to the other side. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.